want to live again. Please, God, let me live again.
George Bailey is one of the most beloved faces in American cinema, yet he is also one of the most misunderstood. Audiences remember the cheerful banker who saves his town and learns that his life matters. But beneath the holiday glow, there is a quieter story filled with sacrifice, buried frustration, emotional fracture, and the slow erosion of a man's spirit. His journey is not just about Christmas magic. It is about the cost of being the person everyone relies on, the weight of dreams that never come true, and the quiet crisis of a man who believes he has failed the world he once wanted to explore. George's life is a study in suppressed longing. It reveals a character caught between idealism and responsibility, between childhood wonder and adult sacrifice, between the life he wanted and the life he accepted. This is why his story still resonates across generations. It is not simply inspirational. It is deeply human. In today's Character Deep Dive, we explore why George Bailey remains one of the most complex figures ever placed on film and why his emotional unraveling remains a rare achievement in classic cinema. By peeling back the layers of his childhood, his relationships, his disappointments, and his darkest Christmas Eve,
each man's life touches so many other lives.
We see a man who becomes a symbol of American pressure and personal sacrifice. This script brings you through every significant chapter of his life, from the boy who saved his brother on a frozen lake to the man who stands on a bridge ready to end it all. We explore how Mary, Clarence, and even Mr. Potter shaped George's trajectory, and how each scene reveals a new crack in his spirit. We also touch on the original short story that inspired the film. While the story offers the core idea of a man seeing a world without him, the film gives George a richer emotional universe filled with choices, consequences, and pain. Today we walk through the full evolution of George Bailey, the dreamer who becomes the reluctant hero and the symbol of a quiet American tragedy that transforms into redemption. This is the Character Explained.
I am an old man, and most people hate me, but I don't like them either, so that makes it all even.
George Bailey enters the world with a heart full of longing that is larger than the small town he is born into. His childhood is filled with curiosity, warmth, and a restless energy that often makes Bedford Falls feel too small for him. One of the earliest images of George is on the ice with his brother Harry. The air is sharp and bright, the sound of skates scraping across a frozen pond surrounding them. When Harry falls into the icy water, George does not hesitate. He dives in without thought for his own safety. This moment shows us the very essence of his nature. He is the boy who always saves others even when it costs him something. The loss of hearing in one ear becomes a permanent reminder of that early sacrifice. It is both an injury and a symbol. It marks the first time George gives up a piece of himself for someone else. As he grows older, George's dreams grow too. He builds models of bridges and skyscrapers. He talks about shaking the dust of Bedford Falls off his shoes. His eyes shine when he imagines traveling the world. These dreams are not childish fantasies. They represent a deep need to expand beyond his surroundings. George sees himself as someone who is meant to build and create something significant. Yet even at this stage, we see a pattern forming. He is surrounded by people who need him. His father depends on him. The building and loan depends on him. His family watches him with hope. George becomes a figure of stability long before he is ready to hold that role. His father is the gentle guiding force of the Bailey name, but he is also the first reminder of responsibility. Peter Bailey is kind, patient, and thoughtful. He serves Bedford Falls with a quiet moral backbone that George admires but also feels trapped by. During a key moment in the pharmacy, when young George confronts Mr. Gower to save a life, we witness George's early courage. He has the moral clarity to speak truth even when it scares him. But this bravery also signals something heavier. The town already depends on him. He is the one who notices the mistakes. He is the one who steps in. The wait begins early. The loss of his father is the first major fracture in George's dreams. Just as he prepares to leave for college, life forces him pause. Bedford Falls needs him. The building and loan needs him. The family name needs him. He stands at a crossroads, and chooses responsibility over freedom. This choice is noble, but it is also the beginning of a long pattern of self-erasure. Every sacrifice becomes a brick in the emotional wall he will eventually collide with. The original short story, The Greatest Gift, plants the seed of a man questioning whether his life matters, but it does not explore George's early years or the emotional history that shapes him. The film gives him a deeper foundation by showing how every sacrifice begins in childhood and grows heavier over time. Each moment becomes another step toward the pressure that eventually overwhelms him. This fuller background is what makes his breaking point feel not only dramatic but unavoidable. George's early life sets the stage for conflict that will define every major moment that follows. He begins as a boy filled with wonder and ends as a man carrying the expectations of an entire town. This tension between who he wanted to be and who he believes he must be is the emotional root of his character. As a young adult, George stands on the edge of freedom. College, travel, and adventure sit right within reach. Yet responsibility storms in before he can step beyond the town limits. The funeral of his father becomes an emotional turning point that shapes the rest of his life. George is pulled back into the building and loan office where Mr. Potter tries to dismantle everything the Bailey family built. George watches the board of directors hesitate and falter under Potter's pressure. In that moment, he speaks with the moral certainty he inherited from his father. His words defend the dignity of ordinary people and the purpose of the building and loan. But speaking up comes with a cost. George is offered a simple deal. If he wants the building and loan to survive, he must stay and run it. College slips through his fingers again. This sacrifice sets off a pattern that becomes the silent theme of George's life. Every time he runs toward a long-held dream, someone else's need pulls him back. He watches Harry graduate while he stays behind. He watches his friends pursue success in New York while he handles the smallest details of the building and loan. He attends wedding dances and celebrations with a smile that sometimes hides a quiet ache. Bedford Falls becomes both a home and a cage. There are scenes where George stares out of windows or looks away from conversations for a moment too long. These moments are small, but they reveal a man who keeps burying the life he wanted in order to save others. Mary Hatch returns to George's life like a warm light in a dark hallway. Her love for him is genuine, deep, and steady. She does not want to hold him back. She wants to build a life with him. Their dance, their walk home, and their eventual marriage carry the glow of an American dream that feels attainable. But their honeymoon becomes a symbol of George's destiny. Just as they are about to leave town, the building and loan collapses under the pressure of a bank run. George gives away every dollar saved for their future. His dreams of travel vanish once again. Mary watches him with compassion, yet even she cannot prevent the slow unraveling of his inner world. Love alone cannot rescue a man who believes saving everyone else is his duty. Mr. Potter operates as the shadow that follows George through every major life moment. Potter is not simply a villain. He embodies the force that stands against everything George believes in. Where George sacrifices, Potter consumes. Where George nurtures, Potter destroys. As the town grows and changes, Potter tightens his grip on its economy and its citizens. George becomes the last line of defense without choosing the role. Although he wants to build skyscrapers, he ends up building small neighborhoods for working families. These neighborhoods matter, but they remind him of roads not taken. The film uses these events to slowly feed pressure into George's life. Bills pile up. Responsibilities multiply. His hope begins to thin. Small disappointments accumulate into emotional cracks. Yet George tries to stay cheerful. He cracks jokes. He celebrates small wins. He hides the heaviness under loyalty and pride. This internal conflict becomes the emotional heartbeat of the story. The world sees a dependable man, but inside there is a growing silence filled with regret. Compared to The Greatest Gift, the film explores these sacrifices with far more intensity. The short story offers a man facing despair, but the film shows the lifelong path that leads to that despair. George's life becomes a mosaic of choices that slowly chip away at his sense of self. Every sacrifice is earned, understandable, and heartbreaking. He never complains, but the cost becomes unmistakable. This slow loss of personal dreams makes George's eventual collapse feel not just dramatic, but hauntingly real. George Bailey does not break suddenly. His breakdown is slow, emotional, and built on years of pressure. On the surface, he appears strong. He laughs with his children. He plays with them on the living room floor. He kisses Mary with genuine affection. But beneath this warmth sits a growing fear that he has given up everything he once wanted and still cannot keep the town afloat. There are moments in the film where George looks distant even during joyful scenes. His eyes carry the exhaustion of someone who has always held the world together with bare hands. The final wave of pressure arrives through Uncle Billy, whose forgetfulness sends $8,000 into the hands of Mr. Potter. This loss threatens the building and loan and the entire Bailey reputation. But for George, it is something much deeper. For the first time, the life he built through endless sacrifice is at risk of collapsing. He feels the consequences of choices stretching back to childhood. He sees a future where all his efforts mean nothing. This fear mixes with resentment he has never allowed himself to acknowledge. The anger that rises in George is not only towards circumstances. It is toward the very life that has trapped him. His verbal explosion at home is one of the most painful scenes in classic cinema. George is not angry at his family. He is angry at the years of impossible expectations that have slowly consumed him. When he snaps at Mary and the children, it is the final release of everything he has held inside. The Christmas tree lights, the decorations, and the cheerful faces around him make the moment even more tragic. The holiday season is meant to bring joy, but for George it has become a cruel mirror reflecting what he believes he has lost. This emotional collapse pushes him toward the bridge, one of the most iconic moments in film history. Snow falls gently. The storm rages inside him. The icy rail feels cold under his hands. George stands on the edge, believing the world would be better without him. Years of sacrifice, disappointment, and pressure culminate in this moment. It is not a dramatic fantasy. It feels grounded, raw, and painfully human. The quiet around him reveals his inner emptiness. His eyes hold the weight of someone who cannot see any version of life where he is enough. Clarence enters George's life at this moment, bringing a presence that is kind and curious. Clarence does not fix George with magic. Instead, he reveals the emotional truth that George has forgotten. He shows the consequences of George's absence. He shows how George's sacrifices shaped the lives of others. He reveals that every small action George dismissed as insignificant has actually transformed Bedford Falls. Clarence becomes a mirror, not a savior. He represents the possibility of seeing life through a new lens. This night becomes the first time George sees value in his existence, not through responsibility, but through connection. He begins to realize that his life mattered in ways he never understood. This slow shift becomes the emotional heart of the film and the turning point of his character. The alternate reality sequence is one of the most powerful character studies ever filmed. Bedford Falls becomes a reflection of a world untouched by George's sacrifices. The charming streets turn cold. The warm neighborhoods he championed disappear. Families lose homes. Community breaks apart. The town becomes a place that mirrors Mr. Potter's values rather than George's. This vision is not just for dramatic effect. It is the emotional culmination of George's life. Everything he felt was small and insignificant is shown to be life-changing. When George visits places that once carried meaning, we watch the emotional devastation grow. The pharmacy where he saved a life becomes a reminder of past courage. The building and loan office is gone. The people he helped now struggle or have fallen into despair. Even his own mother does not recognize him. These scenes reveal something vital about George's character. His worth is not measured by the life he wanted, but by the lives he touched without realizing it. Every time he felt trapped, he was actually anchoring the people around him. The most heartbreaking moment arrives when George sees Harry's grave. Without George to save him on the icy pond, Harry never grew up. He never became a war hero. He never received the Medal of Honor. All the lives Harry saved also vanish. This revelation pierces George deeply. It shows him that even his childhood sacrifice altered history. It proves that the moments he thought were small were actually monumental. Mary's alternate life also becomes a reflection of loss. She is still kind and gentle, but without George, she never builds the life she dreamed of. Her loneliness mirrors George's emotional pain. Their love story becomes a symbol of the world he touched and the world he lost. This sequence does not present Mary as incomplete without George. Instead, it shows that their shared life was built on love, partnership, and hopeful dreams that neither would have found alone. Clarence guides George through this emotional landscape with patience and compassion. He does not force enlightenment upon George. He allows him to feel the weight of his absence. This journey becomes a powerful meditation on human connection. The film suggests that no life is too small to impact the world. George Bailey's life becomes the proof. Compared to The Greatest Gift, the film gives this alternate world far more emotional detail. The short story offers the concept, but the movie uses it to explore identity, sacrifice, and the invisible threads that connect us. By placing George within this stark reality, the film reveals the truth he has forgotten. He was never a failure. He was the beating heart of Bedford Falls. This journey through the world without him becomes the catalyst that prepares George for the emotional release and celebration in the final act. George Bailey's run back through Bedford Falls is one of the most exhilarating scenes ever filmed. Snow swirls around him as he sprints through the streets with renewed life. The town looks the same as before, yet everything feels different. George sees every building and every face with new understanding. The world around him has not changed. He has. His newfound perspective floods his heart with relief and overwhelming gratitude. The burdens that once weighed him down have not disappeared, but he no longer sees them as failures. He sees them as proof that his life has purpose. When George reaches home, the warmth of his family fills the screen with a sense of emotional release. Mary rushes toward him. The children surround him. Their voices become the melody of everything he nearly lost. The house that once felt chaotic now feels alive. George holds them close with a gratitude that borders on disbelief. His earlier outburst is washed away by a feeling of renewal. His heart is wide open, and the fear that once consumed him has drifted into the past. The townspeople arriving with donations becomes the final affirmation of his life's value. George spent years believing he was the one holding everyone else together. Now he discovers that they also hold him. Every coin dropped into the basket represents a life he uplifted. Every face in the room reflects a memory of his kindness. Even Mr. Martini and Violet Bick arrive, reminding us that George has always believed in people who struggled to believe in themselves. This is not charity, it is gratitude. Clarence's final message, written inside a copy of Tom Sawyer, becomes the emotional punctuation mark of George's journey. No man is a failure who has friends. It is a simple phrase, but it carries the weight of every sacrifice George ever made. It reminds him that accomplishment is not measured in travel or wealth or careers. It is measured in connection and compassion. The ending of the film does not present a fantasy of perfect resolutions. George still has financial problems. Mr. Potter is still in power. The world has not magically fixed itself, but George's heart has been restored. The meaning of the ending is not about external victory. It is about internal resurrection. George Bailey becomes a symbol of American resilience. His story reflects the emotional struggle of millions of people who feel trapped by circumstances, yet continue to give to others. His transformation shows that personal worth does not come from escaping responsibility, but from seeing the beauty within one's present life. In a world of film history, George Bailey represents the rare character whose greatest victory is emotional rather than physical. He becomes a timeless figure of hope, sacrifice, and rediscovered purpose. His journey remains a cinematic reminder that every life touches countless others, often in ways we never see. George Bailey's story is more than a Christmas classic. It is a portrait of a man carrying the unbearable weight of responsibility while quietly losing himself along the way. His journey shows how easily hope can fade when dreams are sacrificed for the sake of everyone else. Yet it also shows how one life can shape an entire community in ways that go unseen until the moment everything falls apart. Thank you for taking this journey with me as we uncovered the deeper truth behind one of cinema's most misunderstood characters. This is Strange Flick Facts, where we break down cast and movies to bring you the real meaning. Thank you for tuning in, and please like and subscribe.